How's everybody doing? Hoping you're having a fantastic day. It is Wednesday, October 9th, and it is a day. It is a day. I'm here for a Q&A, doing those questions, doing those answers. Hope you guys like the thumbnail. That thumbnail's fire. It's absolute fire. That's a classic thumbnail. That's a classic thumbnail. I hope Jay loves it. I'm sure Jay absolutely loves it. Hi Wagner, how's it going? When is the Kennedy Hall collab? I don't think the Kennedy Hall collab is gonna happen. Kennedy Hall and I haven't had our interactions haven't been too terrible. I mean, they haven't been great, but they haven't been too terrible. Like, we haven't gotten in any flame wars or anything like that. So, maybe. Okay, where's the monkey? The monkey is not here. Absolutely isn't here. Okay, so here's a super chat. Can you help me understand the bounds of viewpoint on modesty and art, particularly regarding St. Alphonsus' sermons, the Vatican film list, the Last Judgment, neoclassicism, etc.? What is illicit? What is illicit and why? Okay, so when it comes to art, windows open. I don't like that. I don't like people might be peeking in or something. I don't like that. When it comes to art, there basically is, and Hassan's the better guy to ask because he has looked through a lot of the primary source material. This is kind of me riffing off of Hassan and then what I've read in certain manuals. There is a viewpoint which has been taken by some ecclesiastics. There has been a diversity of practical ecclesiastical actions. There's been a diversity of position taken by Catholic theologians. So this is by no means unanimous, whether in the theological or the ecclesiastical sphere. So definitely keep that in mind. But that being said, it is completely licit to hold the view that the less honorable parts, so there's classically a distinction between three classes of body part. There's the parts which are dishonorable, and this comes from St. Paul talking about those dishonorable or less honorable parts. The dishonorable parts are going to be those parts of the body which are involved in the generation of children. So, those parts. And then there are the honorable parts, which everybody basically agrees it's okay to show, whether, in film or in art or in wearing of clothes. And this is going to be things like the face, the neck, the hands, the forearms, the ankles, feet, things like this. These are not at all any sort of issue. And then there's the less honorable parts where there is kind of some debate over when it comes to film and such. And these are going to be obviously like the chest, both for males and females, the back, the thighs, things like this are going to be those less honorable parts. It is a perfectly valid and licit position to say that those parts ought not to be shown, whether in film or art or whatever. And obviously with clothing, those parts also in mixed company in public and such should not be shown. So yeah, there's not really a very strong, definitive, like magisterial sort of statement on this. So I'm sorry if that's not that's not satisfactory, but unfortunately there hasn't been a strong agreement on this point. But good question. Good question. Okay, let me go back to the live chat. Disliked for the clickbait thumbnail. Yeah, cry about it actually. Anthony, Anthony, we cannot cover that issue. Okay, I've been controversial enough this week with all the issues I've been covering. So yeah, I cannot do that. Can't do that at all. Does it have to do with the thesis of the video? No. Okay, not sure what this is. In other words, why should we paint over the Sistine Chapel? Well, we should paint over the Sistine Chapel because I happen to be one of those individuals who think that that type of art ought not to be presented. Yeah. Also, is Gregory of Rimini safe to read given his nominalism? Nominalism is kind of a very vacuous historical category. I really don't like the category of nominalism. That's, I guess, all that I'll say to that. I think a lot of it is mudslinging. I don't think a lot of it's fair at all. I mean, everyone from Suarez to Occam get called nominalist or nominalistic, and even some will accuse the Thomists of being nominalistic. I just don't like that category. That there would have to be a better formulated thesis of exactly what is meant by nominalism and which doctrines this is meant to apply to. So yeah, that's it. Okay, so I see a super chat below, but I like this question. Why is keeping the Sabbath part of the moral law instead of the ceremonial law? That is a very good question. So there's a sort of general natural precept to basically the general natural precept is that we have a precept to rest, to not work, and to, in that period of rest, to set aside time for the worship of God. That is a natural precept. But what is not natural is that this resting should take place on this day or that day. It should take place on Tuesday or Sunday or Saturday. This is a part of positive law, actually. So under and we see this from actually the institution of the Sabbath. Is the Sabbath is very much tied in. One in I think it's either the obviously in Genesis, but it's I mix up the Exodus and the Deuteronomy account. It's Deuteronomy either 5 or 6, and then Exodus 20. I think it's Deuteronomy 5. But in one of those accounts, it's very much based on creation, the fact that God has created us on such a day and rested on such a day, and therefore we should, in sort of memorial of that, we should rest and worship God. And it's not only based on creation; it's also based on our redemption. We see this in the redemption of Israel. Is that because God has redeemed Israel? Therefore, there should be this rest as well. So there's a twofold basis, and this basis is actually separate from a positive precept. Is no matter what, this would exist. No matter what, God created us. No matter what, there's this redemption, and therefore this is somehow obligatory. Now, the way in which this gets particularly applied differs. I mean, there's Sabbath years in the Old Covenant. There's weeks. There's days. But when it comes to the New Covenant, the church has legislative authority over how this gets applied, and the church has chosen this as Sunday. Although, because this is also a general precept, you're more than free, more than welcome to go up and beyond in various different ways to set aside, let's say, a week every year, or maybe a sort of 3-day retreat or whatever in order to carry it out. But great question. Great question. Most effective way to convert a Muslim friend. What do you mean by this? Are you talking about like most effective arguments or the general dispositions that we should take in converting individuals? If you're talking about arguments, then I am not an expert on Islam, so sorry. But if you're talking about general dispositions, obviously Catholic theology has a very precise way in which we think about the way in which conversion ought to happen, and this is through the fact that there is a general natural knowledge of God, and there's a natural precept to offer certain thanksgiving, adoration, etc., to God from the fact that we understand naturally that he has created us. So there's a question, obviously, of, okay, well, we know that there is this natural precept. We also know that there is a supernatural order within God. We can know that from nature, according to most theologians. So the question is, has God, up and beyond this, went to reveal this to us? And we can't know this through natural precepts, whether he's done this, but we can know this through what are called motives of credibility, that God has stamped his approval on this or that revelation. So really what it is a process of is it's a process of presenting the preaching of the gospel and then also presenting those motives of credibility. Now, when it comes to the motives of credibility in particular, I'm trying to think which. There's a short article by this. Actually, if you just look up motives of credibility Feingold, Lawrence Feingold has a good PDF on what the motives of credibility are and things like this. It's from the HebrewCatholic.net. I know, guys. Faith-seeking understanding, motives of credibility for faith. These will go over it in general and in particular. It's a pretty good overview, but good question. Okay. Man, you guys are asking some good questions, I see. I'm going to save that one. That's not a super chat, but I'll save it. Can you explain the Holy Spirit being able to generate another person but not doing it? Heard this EO objection. What do you mean by this? The Holy Spirit has the okay. So basically, the faculties of intellect and will, they have what's called fecundity or fruitfulness, and the nature as well as a what's called a remote principle. This is also fecund. So it has fecundity or fruitfulness to be able to communicate the divinity. But as it is possessed by the Spirit, there's already the infinite fecundity. All that could be given is already given. So in this way, the Holy Spirit is not able to produce another person due to this fact. I don't know exactly. I would need to see the objection completely put out. Okay. Were you implying that the less honorable parts cannot be shown in clothing either, or just that this position is listed to hold? Yeah. So when it comes to clothing, clothing should not expose these parts. Although there are some exceptions to this. So, for example, if you are not in a situation where this would offer a sort of proximate danger of sin or of some sort of undignifying, if you want to put it like that, undignifying, is that a word, undignifying of the body? So like, let's say you have a group of a few guys and they're going swimming and they don't wear shirts. Like that would be an example, and that wouldn't be problematic. That would be different than, going around shirtless in public or something, or in a mixed situation. Okay. I heard that Molinism was almost condemned. When was this and for what reason? I'm a new Catholic. Yeah, so there was what's called, if you look it up, it's De Auxiliis. So Dauxiliis. De Auxiliis. So if you look up the Congregatio De Auxiliis or just De Auxiliis, there was a controversy, and this happened in the late 16th century, but it kind of bled over into the 17th century as well. And this was basically a fight which took place between various Jesuits and Dominicans mostly, but also those of other orders as well, opposed the Molinists as well. There were debates that were held between theologians in front of the Pope and in front of various cardinals, and they went through a lot of dozens of sessions. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head how many sessions it was. But yes, Molinism was almost condemned. But eventually the church chose to not condemn it. And most of the Thomists, when you read them and you read these particular wording, they do say that there's a... Okay, so I want to be careful how I say this, but sometimes in theological decisions like this, there isn't merely an equal playing field to all of the positions. So sometimes there's debates and sometimes one is condemned and the other is the correct position. Sometimes that happens. Other times it's just, okay, this isn't, we're not going to do anything. And other times there's actually, okay, this is the favorable position, and we're merely merely permitting that position. And when it comes to Molinism, it was given a sort of degree of permission. That's what occurred. But good question. If I'm trying to think of a book that goes over this, I can't off the top of my head. Okay, there was one earlier that I wanted to answer. Okay, so what does St. James mean when he says we are justified by faith and works, given that works are not the formal cause of justification? What is the formal cause of justification? Just grace, I assume, or is it faith? Great question. So sanctifying grace is a what's called an entitative habit. It's kind of a fancy word for a certain super added perfection that permeates the entirety of a thing and then makes it right ordered. So you can have operative habits. So like let's say you have faith, or you have charity, or you have what's called the moral virtue of justice, or you have it could be even something outside of moral issues. It could be you have a habit to wrestle, or you have a habit to run, or whatever. These habits are operative habits. They are going to be something which resides in a faculty and perfects that faculty and orders that faculty to easily carrying out certain acts. So when it comes to justification, sanctifying grace is that entitative habit. So it resides, rather than in a particular faculty, it resides in the nature of the soul itself. And as we know, that the nature of something is what's called the remote principle by which it acts, and the faculties are the proximate principle by which it acts. So you can think of it like the nature of something is the root, and the individual faculties are branches. So what happens with sanctifying grace is sanctifying grace goes into the root of the soul and then goes out into all the branches. So you have with the theological virtues, and the intellect is faith, and the will directly ordered towards God is present as charity. And then in the will, although it kind of involves the intellect, is going to be is hope for future goods. So those are the theological virtues. We also have what are called the Beatitudes, gifts of the Holy Ghost, things like this, what are called the infused moral virtues. It basically resides and permeates through the entire soul in order to perfect everything. And some of these are due to bad habits, or due to many different issues. Some of these are inhibited in their act, but they're all present. And this right order that happens, this right order of soul that is an effect of sanctifying grace, that is what we call supernatural justice. So this supernatural justice is the formal cause of justification. So it's that as St. Augustine says, it's that justice whereby we are made just, not the justice whereby God himself is just, or the imputed justice of Christ on our behalf. So that's what we mean. So when it comes to this issue, you could either have the right order itself. So the bringing about of this right order, the introduction of this right order, that is what we call the justification of the impious, or some are going to call it initial justification, although I don't like that terminology. It's less traditional. But you can also think of it like, hey, you have this order of soul, and this order of soul, due to the less dispositions being placed for the action of these various virtues and gifts and so on, due to this fact, it could be said to increase because you can increase in charity, increase in hope, increase in love, increase in all of these things. So this increasing right there is going to happen through works. It's going to happen through certain actions, both internal and external. It's going to be increased by removing impediments through penance. It's going to be increased through participation in the sacraments. It's going to be increased through prayer, through a lot of these different things. And this is what we call the increase in justice. Now, justification is just justificatio. It just comes from making just. So technically, you can call this process of increasing right there. You can call that process justification as much as you can call the initial movement from injustice to justice. Okay, does that all make sense? So basically, when James is talking about we are justified by works and not by faith alone, This could either be in reference, some are going to say, okay, well, this is in reference to the principle of works, which is going to be charity, or this could simply just be in reference to the increasing in justification. As St. Paul teaches in many places, we're not justified by the works of the law. And the theologians are going to say, well, okay, you might be able to say that directly this is referring to the works of the old covenant, but in a broader sense, this refers to all works, even evangelical works, even the works that happen as motivated by charity and are meritorious for eternal life. So that indicates to us that this movement from injustice to justice does not happen by any sort of works whatsoever. So does that make sense? We're just distinguished between those two types of justice, either as that movement from impiety to piety, which works not involved by grace through faith, faith which works through love. Okay, that's what happens, or it could go from being in a state of piety to being in a greater state of piety. And under this aspect, works are going to obviously be involved. But great question. Okay, why do Eastern Orthodox never talk about the Western Fathers, but they claim to venerate them? I think it's very much dependent on who you're talking about and what issue they're talking about. So if you're talking about like certain internet personalities and the filioque, or certain other doctrine of God things, or certain things about grace, and so on and so forth, all the classic issues, purgatory, blah blah blah. When it comes to all those, like, yeah, that's a astute observation, I guess. But when it comes to the real, and I'm using real because I don't I don't place myself in the real theologians. I don't think I'm a real theologian. But when it comes to like the guys writing the books and those treatises and such, yeah, they do reference the Western Fathers, maybe less on those issues that they disagree with us on. But yeah. Okay, so how do you better understand eternity in relation to heaven, hell, or purgatory? Would time simply never end, or would it be a state? Yeah, this is a great question. So we distinguish between three types of time. There is eternity in an absolute sense, and this eternity is the eternity of God Himself, because we know that time is the measure of motion, and God is immobile. So God is immobile. So there's an eternal now that happens with God. There isn't this motion and movement like there is amongst bodily creatures. So for Him, there's this eternity in absolute sense. And then there's on the lowest level, we can talk about just time in general. So this time, there's going to be corporeal movement and everything like that. So time, the measure of corporeal movement, just goes on and on and on. And then there's going to be a middle level. We can call this like participated eternity. Although technically the angels in their natural state are like this as well. So it kind of gets weird to speak about like this. But when it comes to the beatified souls, or the souls in hell or purgatory, they're going to exist in what's called a state of aviternity. So the state of aviternity is going to be not necessarily the measure of corporeal motion, but certain what are called discrete motions. So if you think about it like this, it's not like there's a sort of continual boom, 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 but there's kind of like discrete packages which are dropped at various different motions. So it's approaching nearer to that single now of timelessness that exists in God. But yeah, if you look up, let me see. I think I did a video on this. Sorry, my son is not happy about going to bed right now. I think I'm probably the only person who's ever talked about aviternity on YouTube. Maybe there's other people. Aviternity, Scholastic Answers. Let me see. If you're interested in this. Yeah, how does time work in purgatory / hell / heaven on aviternity? It's like a 5-6 minute video. So yeah, that is another resource if you want to go there. What do you think of Trent Horn's video posted today? Okay. I don't know how much of this I can answer. Sorry, it's just the nature of the platform that I'm on right now. I don't know if I'll ever really talk about this in detail though, because this isn't really what I talk about. But from like theological principles, if you're asking about the historical event, I think the historical event happened, and I think it's incidental. Things like method, number, etc. I think those are incidental and aren't really like too central for me. So to claim that the assent to this particular event is somehow necessary for Catholics, and I saw some people calling this like a dogma. That's wrong. You shouldn't do that. That's quite bad to be binding Catholics' consciences in this way on an issue that does not directly and immediately relate to divine revelation. You just shouldn't do that. That's not good practice. Although I'm not sure that's what he was doing. But to kind of head that off, yeah, that's not right for you to do that. Um, but there can be a degree of sinfulness in the manner in which one denies it. So if they deny it, it's in a sort of spirit of motivated by, rather than like historical inquiry, motivated by a spirit of disdain or hatred, or stated in a way in which they know will cause active scandal, or things like uh, stated in a way that is active scandal, sorry, that causes passive scandal. Things like this obviously could be in an incidental way sinful, but yeah, I don't really like it when people are trying to bind people's consciences on things like this. Um, yeah, so I guess that's all that I can say, and I have to remain very vague, obviously. Okay, so Joe, my question is below. Okay, let me see. Do the Augustinians distinguish between Gehenna and the Limbus in Infantium as different places, since their punishments are the same in species but only differ in grade? Um, that's a good question. I sorry, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I haven't. I read a little bit of the Augustinians, kind of on the nature of the punishments, but I haven't read anything on the nature of place in particular. That hasn't really been too much of an interest for me. So yeah, sorry. Yeah, shut up. It's pronounced ev eternity, not of eternity. Okay, shut up. Shut up. Be quiet. Okay, so let me. I'm through all the super chats. So let me see. Does Aquinas, Saint Thomas, talk about anything relating to fairies? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Okay. Okay. Yeah, with trying to binding people to believe something, make them a Catholic fundamentalist. Yeah, I thought this was two very unfortunate events occurred after the Catholic fundamentalist video, which is the clip where he talked about smoking, and the obviously the recent video today. It seems like he in these issues might perhaps be a bit inconsistent with the way in which he's speaking about Catholic fundamentalism. What is moral consensus? I super chatted this question in a now deleted video and never saw the answer. I had to leave before you answered it. Yeah, I answered it actually uh, in a little bit greater degree in the other video. Sorry, the video should still be on Twitter, but basically, moral consensus is going to be basically everyone agrees, but not every single individual, and the those individuals that disagree. So, like, let's say you have like 99% of the most orthodox theologians and the most well-respected theologians, and you have 1% of schizos, or like even like let's say like 90%, 10%. It's like this. That is a moral consensus. But let's turn it around now. Let's say you have 90% and the 10% who disagree are not the most schizo, but are actually the ones who are the learned ones. The 90% would not constitute in that case a moral consensus, because the type of individual witnessing actually does have a significant impact on whether a consensus is drawn or not. But yeah, it may sound a bit weird, but it is just basically everyone, not a physical unanimity, which would be every single individual without any sort of exception. Okay, what is more? Okay, what is more base, TLM or Novus Ordo? Please leave my chat. What is a solid argument for universals, or a work that is good apologetic for metaphysics in general, preferably Thomistic metaphysics? What do you mean a solid argument for universals? Thomists don't think that universals formally exist, but only fundamentally exist in things. If you want a good work on Thomistic metaphysics, how the frick is it? Ah, here it is. Always, always am prepared. Henry Grenier's Thomistic philosophy, right here. You can go to the sections on universals. I mentioned in a different video which sections these are, but if you just look in the table of contents, you should get and look for universals. Let me see. This is going to be in book 2 of the material logic. It's on universals, the universal, the predicaments, and definition and division. So you have fun with that. He provides, it's a manual, so he provides arguments pretty directly rather than being very oblique about it. How do we deal with internal subverters, i.e., Gallican / Universalist Catholics? I mean, Mosen, it's not really very hard for it to be a we thing because the shepherds are usually the ones applying discipline in this way. But I mean, if there is some sort of moral danger to the faithful, like there is with a lot of individuals like this, putting out different works in public, so videos, books, tracts, informing the faithful generally, that's appropriate for laymen to do. Okay, being a schizo so I can win. W. Debate me. What are we debating, Trendy? Debate me, bro. This guy's debate me, bro. Thoughts on Giles of Rome or the Aegidian school? The Aegidianites are based. They are red pill. They're the true Thomists. I don't actually know a bunch about Aegidius except like Berti. I think if you look up like Secundum Aegidii, let me see. Oh, I cannot find them. There's like works of like philosophy according to the mind of Aegidius and Saint Thomas. Can't remember exactly which work it is, but if you do deep enough lurking, you can find old books that are basically systematic introductions to the beliefs of Aegidius. Obviously, the Augustinians also hold Aegidius and Thomas of Strasbourg a bit, but usually Saint Thomas. They hold them in very high regard. So generally speaking, uh, it's going to be Thomism with a few distinctives added on. Okay, let me see. Was the CCC meant to replace theology manuals post Vatican II, or just be a supplement to the manuals in the Roman Catechism? Yeah. So the CCC, its express stated purpose is it's actually meant for bishops. So the bishops have the role of in bishops' conferences by extension, but primarily the bishops have the role of chief catechists in their dioceses. So what the bishops and the bishops' conferences are supposed to do is they're supposed to take the CCC and they're supposed to adapt it to their local circumstances. This happened with the USCCB. The USCCB has a let me see, what is the USCCB catechism? Can't even can't even find it anymore. The USCCB catechism. Yeah, here it is. The United States Catholic Catechism for Adults. I looked through it. It was pretty bad, to be honest. Yeah, it wasn't that good at all. But that's the purpose of it is to basically have a general guideline for bishops to adapt catechisms. So it doesn't really have to do with the manuals because manuals are about primarily seminarian education, not about the education for catechesis. Unfortunately, the CCC actually is very much used in seminary formation, which is kind of wild. I read through the CCC before I entered the church because that's what my priest wanted me to do. So yeah, it is quite strange that now it's like, okay, you go to seminary, it's like, hey, let's read the CCC and maybe a book by a few of the Nouvelle Theologie that are primarily like poetic, speculative, whatever works, and not really passing down in a way akin to the manuals, the teaching of tradition and the teaching of the magisterium on a certain thesis and explaining the different positions of the schools and defending a particular position and so on and so forth. There really isn't a post conciliar equivalent to manuals in this way, unfortunately. Fortunately. Okay, why are you calling Jay a racist? What is your proof? Okay, you don't even get the meme, bro. You don't even get the meme. Natalis, W. Natalis. Natalis was a lion. He was a lion. He, for those who don't know, he was the head. He was the general of the Dominican order, right? I think Natalis was either that or he had very high ranking positions within Dominican order. And there was a theologian Durandus who tried to question and oppose. This was early 14th, mid 14th century. Tried to oppose the authority of Saint Thomas within the Dominican order, and Natalis basically just like clobbered him. It was based. It was based. JP2 praised the Roman Catechism. So true. That's true. That is true. Okay, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, good. I didn't miss anything. Okay, so recently made a video on predilection. Was wondering if that principle holds before the fall, since sufficient grace, ordinary efficacious grace, would not be resisted by many in original justice. Yes, it still does hold. It still does hold before the fall. Okay. Let me see. Why were you denying the story of the Orthodox priest who was killed in Mexico? Because the story was stupid. You guys want to go over the story? Okay. This is a real true. This is a real and true moment. This is definitely not fake at all. Let me pop it up. Yeah, it's such a making it using it this way is just so silly. Okay, let me. It's a guy named George. Apparently, I blocked him a while ago. Before converting to orthodoxy from papism, new martyr Bishop Paul Ballister cried out to help in confidence to one of his most trusted clerical acquaintances. He laid out nearly the exact case J. Dyer put forward, but this was the Jesuits' response. Let's see. This is real. This is true. This is red pill. This is not fake at all, guys. This is not fake. If to trust the plan, this is not fake. What you tell me, I acknowledge. So he's acknowledging that Pope bad. That they are most logical and very clear and true. However, for us Jesuits, apart from the usual three vows, we give a fourth one during the day of our tonsure. This fourth vow is most important than the vow of purity, obedience, and poverty. It is the vow that we must totally submit to the Pope. This way, I prefer to go to hell with the Pope than to paradise with all your truths. Yeah, that's a real story, guys. That's so true. This is so true. This is not fake at all, guys. This is not fake. This is not fake at all. Okay, this is not fake. Okay, I am just being a denier. I am being a denier right here. What's your take on liberation theology, and is it condemned by the church? Okay, this is a Hassan moment, by the way. Okay, so to my understanding, the type of liberation theology that is permitted by the church and has been included within her moral teachings is basically the fact that there can be social structures that are a result from sin, and these ought to be opposed. Like that's basically the foundational thesis to my knowledge, and any other things that go up and beyond, and the particular applications of this to concrete circumstances, that this is not anything that is essential to that type of teaching. Does that make sense? That's my understanding in general from the conversations I've had with others, and then from short readings that I've had. Okay, is there anyone helping people with the Bible as you do on theology? Lots of modern issues, for example, destruction of continents, can be better understood if one knows what happened to the 10 tribes of Israel and why. I can't really think of any. It's a bit unfortunate because when you go into something like it's a good resource. I'm not gonna trash him, but like Father Mike Schmitz, his Bible in a Year, he gives his little reflections afterwards. But these end up in many ways being untraditional, kind of just what he heard from seminary, got from personal reflection, read in books. These unfortunately don't end up being resources which are what somebody like Cornelius a Lapide was doing when he commented on the Bible, which is basically, okay, let's take the tradition, let's show what the multiple interpretations of this are, and let's give the primary interpretation, whatever theological or moral conclusions we can draw forth from this text. There's not really anybody doing that, and it's unfortunate. Eventually, I want to expand what I do here, and something which is directed towards the classical interpretation, pre-modern interpretations of Scripture. That's definitely something that I would be quite interested in doing for sure. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I get that. I get that for sure. Trendy web groiper, higher trendy web. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna talk about that. Okay, Saint Irenaeus Ministries. I'll look that up. Saint Irenaeus Ministries. 'Cause I mean, I'm always looking for resources. I mean, this is kind of like one of like the like our theological authors talk about. This is kind of one of the goods that are diffusive and can be shared. I mean, it's not like we're all fighting here for viewership. It's good to find people doing good stuff. So yeah, I will check out Saint Irenaeus Ministries. Okay, let me look. I did in Google. Let me go on YouTube, see what they're all about. So if this is something that's good, it's good. Then yeah. Hasn't posted a video in a year. So over. So over. So over. Okay, that's sad. Yeah, I'd have to check it out. I don't want to give my stamp of approval or anything if I haven't looked through it. Okay, how does St. Thomas interpret St. Augustine's opinion that knowledge is by the illumination of the inner truth, while holding knowledge is by abstraction? Well, St. Thomas is going to interpret that illumination as the agent intellect when it comes to, um, because St. Thomas agrees that all knowledge of truth, whether natural or supernatural, is by way of illumination. It's he just particularly interprets St. Augustine as talking about the agent intellect with the illumination of natural truths. And then when it comes to the illumination of supernatural truths, this is obviously by the light of faith, which really isn't, to my knowledge, any sort of controversy when it comes to the proponents of different positions. I think that for sure when it comes to how do I put this? When it comes to the differences between the Augustinians and the Thomists in the medieval era, a lot of that ends up being just kind of meme history that you can discount of. You have to really, if you're gonna, not you. I'm obviously not talking about you in particular, but like if you, as in you general, are going to make claims about this and are going to base serious reflection on this, there really does need to be primary source reading on these issues, because there's so many meme narratives that get passed down through the medievals. Okay. Do you think JD Vance is ignorant on IVF or actually knows and still supports? I think he knows. How much have you read on the monastic life? I haven't read a bunch. I haven't read a bunch on the monastic life. I definitely want to read more. I mean, there's like the church, the patristic readings and such that I've read. On it, like St. John Cassian, but not really like a bunch of, and definitely not systematic treatises on it. Father Mike would destroy you in a debate. I would let him destroy me in a debate, dude. Father Mike has done a million times more for the kingdom than I've ever done. So I will gladly cede him to obliterate me. There's a good section on the Augustinian Thomistic view of learning in Father William. Oh, I thought you said Father William Most. I was about the okay. Is there anything in the intellect that was not first in the senses? No. Okay. In what sense did God rest in Genesis? That's a great question. Let me see if there's something succinct from St. Thomas on this, because he's always better than me. But basically, the general view is that that this is a sort of symbolic representation of the fact that he's not uh, of completeness of his creation, of the created order. Okay, let me see. This would be in prima pars question. Okay, seventh day. Here we go. Is this succinct or is this long? This is succinct. Okay. So he's going to give a much better answer than me. He said the super chat, so I might as well go looking for it. Okay. Let me put this in. This is from Prima Pars question 73, article 2. Respondeo. Rest is, properly speaking, opposed to movement, and consequently to the labor that arises from movement. But although movement, strictly speaking, is a quality of bodies, yet the word is applied also to spiritual things and in a twofold sense. So really, when we're talking about movement, motion, and its opposition of rest, we're obviously this is in its primary signification, just like something like light, which he brings forth in a different place, which is really interesting. I've been thinking about that a lot recently. But this is in primary signification, referring to what happens in the bodily motion of creatures, and it can be applied by some sort of analogy. It can be applied to God. That's what he's saying here. On the one hand, every operation may be called a movement, and thus the divine goodness is said to move and go forth to its object in communicating itself to that object, as Dionysius says. On the other hand, the desire that tends to an object outside of itself is said to move towards it. Hence, rest is taken in two senses. In one sense, meaning a cessation from work, and the other, the satisfying of desire. So yeah, this is, I guess, how I. If you have something that you really want, let's say you really want to, read a book. You desire to read a book, and then you pick up the book, look at it, start reading it. You have reached the good, and therefore you are resting in the good. So like that sense. So insofar as God eternally rests in the contemplation of his own goodness, because he has reached the terminus of his desire. So when it comes to that sense, now there's also another sense where motion can be said to be um, all of those things which go out from oneself. So resting would be just the idea of stopping from bringing about effects. Okay, now in either sense, God is said to have rested on the seventh day. First, because he ceased from creating new creatures on that day, for as it is said above, he made nothing afterward that had not existed previously, in some degree, in the first works. Second, because he himself had no need of the things that he had made, but was happy in the fruition of himself. So in that eternal beatitude of enjoying himself that I mentioned. Hence, when all things were made, he is not said to have rested in his works, as though needing them for his own happiness, but to have rested from them, as in fact resting in himself, as he suffices for himself and fulfills his own desire. And even though from all eternity he rested in himself, yet the rest in himself, which he took after he finished his works, is that rest which belongs to the seventh day. And this, says St. Augustine, is the meaning of God's resting from all his works on that day. So on the one hand, it could be God, we're merely contemplating God's resting and enjoying himself and his own beatitude. But on the other hand, we could say that he's not bringing about the effects of new creatures. So yeah, I got one of the senses. I got a 50%. Why is it fake and gay that angels weren't created before corporeal beings? I literally was just reading about this. And when I finished reading about this, I'm so sorry, Unius Initiative, to just like destroy you like this. But when I was finished reading from this, I was basically in a state of confusion, and I had not made a decision on this point. Sorry about that. Sorry, I apologize. But this is actually right above this question on the work of the first day. Where's no, it's 66. Where did I read about this? Was it in the creation of angels? Where the frick did I read about this? I'm so sorry, Unius Initiative. I apologize. I'm sorry, bro. Okay. Was Dionysius really a fake, or is that modernist scholar nonsense? I don't know. Oh my goodness. Father Most. I love Father Most's work on predestination. It's so good. Miss me with that. Answer Dead's question. Do you answer questions on the Pope? I'm curious about whether the Pope can break canon law because he is above canon law. By definition, if it's merely a positive law that is merely based on the will of the legislator, no, he can't. He can't break it. But there is a sense in which we can talk about the Pope bound by canon law, insofar as certain laws may have such a direct and immediate connection to the principles underlying it that in order to break that canon, by consequence, he would be breaking a principle of either natural or divine law. Wagner refuses to answer Jeff. What did Jeff say? I'm not really. No. Nope. 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 Okay, what did Jeff say? I don't see Jeff. If God has foresight into the future from eternity past and has knowledge of what he will do / how he will interact from creation, are his actions predetermined? Yeah, so I'm sorry to drop a truth nuke this hard for you, but when it comes to you're thinking of divine action in a very creaturely manner, because for us, the way that it works is the works are formally transient. So when I pick up this cup, I go pick it up. You know, this action's moving outside of myself right when I do it. But when it comes to God, really, from all eternity, there was the will that certain effects would come about with a relation of dependence upon God. So God doesn't like begin to work or anything like that. Sorry to drop that truth nuke. Is there anything as natural virtue? What is it if it exists? Yeah, of course there's natural virtue. Natural virtue is just in reference to like well order in many different ways. You could be well ordered towards the natural ends of various things. Like for example, you could have virtue in regard to the concupiscence if you have the virtue of chastity. This is a natural virtue that can come through natural means, or it can happen in what's called a modally supernatural way, insofar as it flows forth from sanctifying grace, which I talked about earlier. That's one of those branches to sanctifying grace. Can you answer my super chat? Did I not answer your super chat? I'm pretty sure I remember answering your super chat. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I guess I missed it. Sorry. Souls grow in virtue but don't merit in purgatory? ? Yeah, this is a very interesting question. This is a very interesting question, my friend. So when it comes to this issue, basically it has to do with the fact that any merit is dependent on some sort of pactum, or how would I translate pactum? It's some sort of covenant. Might be a good English rendering. Some sort of, or you could say just pact, some sort of covenant, or it's based in some way or dependent in some way on the will of God for acceptation and bringing it about. So God can will without injustice to for there to be certain acts which flow forth from charity that don't merit eternal beatitude, and this is what happens in purgatory. So yeah, the will of God. That's the explanation. Okay, thoughts on charismatic positions regarding glossolalia and lay people casting out demons from other lay people and counter ministries encourages these counter ministries. Sorry, I'm not really familiar with these. They have a Wikipedia page. An anointed worship minister. It's Catholic. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna die. Probably is some like insane coal. Yeah, I will give an answer to your question because there actually is a lot of Catholic reflection.
The gospel is good.
And it will all make sense. I promise. Trust the plan. It'll all make sense. Okay, this looks like complete coal. Documental fearless. Okay, what is documental fearless? Sky, he needs to shave. That's the issue. I hope he's not a priest.
I think sometimes there's some confusion around the gift of tongues because we know very well that celebrated passage from Pentecost in Acts chapter 2, where the apostles spoke and people from a variety of languages heard in their own language. And we think that tongues is speaking exclusively about that experience. But St. Paul talks about the gift of tongues in 1 Corinthians 12 and then more fully in 1 Corinthians 14. And he makes some contrasts. He contrasts praying with the mind and praying in the spirit. And I think we can see that intentionality. In fact, St. Thomas Aquinas, when he gives commentary on 1 Corinthians 14, talks about this.
Yeah.
That the intention of the heart is what is necessary, not necessarily that the person is understood.
Oh man, I can't believe he pulled that on us. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, this is really bad. This is really bad. Yeah, don't listen to anything this guy says. That is a extremely, I won't call him dishonest because he's a priest. That's an extremely fanciful reading of what St. Thomas has on this. Because for St. Thomas, we can go here to Summa Theologiae Prima Secundae, question 110. Is it 110? Oh, no, it's 111. Game over. Okay, so there's two types of graces. There's sanctifying grace and gratuitous grace. So sanctifying grace, I talked about it earlier. That's basically the grace which makes us pleasing. That's what the Latin phrase means. It's just the grace which makes us pleasing. And then gratuitous grace, this refers to certain extraordinary gifts giving to individuals not to make them pleasing, but in order to help make others pleasing. So, for example, miracles. Miracles serve as a motive of credibility for others. So it helps sanctify them, helps strengthen their faith, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to the gift of tongues, it's explicitly mentioned that the gift of tongues have to do with the ability to speak in a tongue which was not somehow known. So it's one of these gratuitous graces. And this being able to speak in a tongue that's not known helps and equips a certain individual to preach the gospel or to give some sort of spiritual consolation to those who may not be able to speak in their tongue. Yeah. So yeah, that's a huge stretch. That is this actually Article 4 right here, question 111, Article 4. He gives a division of all of these. This is one of the most sublime passages in the entire Summa. I freaking love this. It's an extremely sublime passage. The way in which he shows St. Paul's just genius, absolute genius. Is law an act of intellect or will? What do you mean by this? Like the promulgation of the law? Sorry, I'm confused by the question. I don't know much about law disputes between the Scotus and the Thomas, if you're particularly asking about that. Father Boniface Hicks has been on Pints a few times. Oh, oy vey, oy vey. Okay, we have to dive into this. Okay, I hate to do this because I mean he's a priest and everything, but yeah, that was pretty bad. Boniface Hicks. Okay, let me see. The St. Benedict Medal explains. He's on Ascension Presents. I'm sure he's like 500 times holier than I am, at least, maybe 1,000 times holier than I am, and has helped a lot more people than I could ever dream of helping. But on this issue, I just hold to St. Thomas and hold to the tradition. So he's been on St. Paul Center as well. He's been on EWTN as well. Oh man. Oh, we should shave though. I really don't like big beards. That was a throwaway comment. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean that is an example of a gratuitous grace, gift of healing. If you have any interest in following up my previous question, the Pope can't break canon law. Well, the Pope can break canon law, just not when there's such an immediate connection between the law and jealousy's unbecoming. Am I being jealous right now? Oh, the beard thing. Okay, yeah, I get it. Hey, I'm a Latin Chad. I'm sorry. If you have any interest about Pope can't break canon law, what's the deal with having 120 cardinals when the canon law says you can only have 70? Yeah, there's not such an immediate connection between that canon and and it's principles that it would not allow for the Pope to override this issue. Yeah, me too. Charismatic stuff makes me feel very uncomfortable. Yeah, especially because I spent a portion of my youth in a charismatic environment, and I have family members who are very much in the charismatic movement. Really don't like it. The video I sent, he speaks in tongues. Dude, it makes me so cringe to hear glossolalia. Dude, I'm not a-logging priests. I promise. I'm trying to be as nice as I can. What's the best Augustinian books on grace, justification, predestination? English or Latin? Both work. Yeah, in Latin, just look up Berti. Berthi. Berti. Berti. Is he Cardinal Berti? Or did I misspell his name? It's so over. It's so over. I think I misspelled his name. Ah, why can't I remember his first name? Giovanni. Of course, he's Berti. There's no H in there. Yeah, Giovanni Berti. He wrote basically a systematic overview of Augustinian theology. Okay, let me bring it up for you. Giovanni Berti. Yep. He's basically like standardizes the Augustinian tradition. So he's always really great to go to. Okay. bro, the indexical argument. Just watch any video Astro and I have done. Okay, I'm new to the channel. What's the topic? This is just questions and answers. My question was ignore. What did I ignore? Sorry, there's a lot of questions. I often have to ignore them. The tree of life was sacramental. I don't know exactly. What kind of. I'd have to look into this more. I don't know exactly. Let me see where. There it is. I don't know exactly the way in which the causality of grace functioned with the tree of life, but yeah, I know that it was sacramental. So, sorry, bro. Don't know much. Is it just me or is Father Casey Cole kind of Cole? Okay, yeah, funny. I don't think we should. I mean, I agree with the what those words signify. I don't know. I just feel uncomfortable saying stuff like that about priests. Maybe it's I don't mean to like bind your conscience or anything. Maybe it's just me being scrupulous, but I just don't like that. Thoughts on Father Mark Goring? Okay, I don't know much about Father Mark Goring. Sorry, I have to look him up. He's a YouTuber. Let me see if I've seen this guy. Just have like daily inspiration. He says normal YouTube videos. What the? These are some interesting. Let me pop this up for you guys. These are some interesting thumbnails. I'm warning the world.
Praise be Jesus Christ. So we're getting some of the.
It actually looks base. What does CC stand for, by the way?
Praise be Jesus Christ. So we're getting some of the nice fall colors up here in Canada. I'm going to head up to the Peace Tower this morning, make myself a cup of tea, and I want to share with you a scary end times prophecy. So let's get up there, light the fire, and enjoy life while we can. Here's the spiral staircase. I've got some skateboarding deck tape on the first ones. I still have to do the rest of the stairs. It's really slippery. This is really dangerous when wet.
So true. Dude, he's living the life. He's absolutely living the life.
You have made me old enough to live forever in your love.
Okay.
And my heart
okay. Can we not do that?
Until it rests.
Can we not do that, please?
Described at the beginning the first apparition. Glory, my heart will triumph by Miriana Solo. You have to read this book. It's phenomenal. She describes at the beginning the first apparition when our Blessed Mother allegedly appeared to these 6 young people. She says, the last words the Blessed Mother said were, "Go in God's peace," Our Lady said. Then quite suddenly she began to ascend, fading into the blueness. Simultaneously, I felt myself come back to this world, a transition accompanied by a great amount of pain and sadness. I longed to be with Our Lady.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, why is my camera weird? Okay. Is it possible for other persons of the Trinity, of the Holy Trinity, to become incarnate? Yes. Okay. St. Thomas talks about this. He built this little cabin by hand and encouraged his lady to get away for a few days. Yeah, that's based. That's actually based. He's a very holy man and a very simple man. Okay. He seems like it. Just don't like the singing. Okay. Thoughts on the 3 days of darkness? I literally have no thoughts, and I couldn't possibly care less. Okay. Yeah, just don't reconfess sins. Companions of the cross. Oh, okay. Father Mark Goring is very passionate. He's generally got good takes. Okay. Okie dokie. I trust you guys. Okay. Is it possible for Christ to assume another human nature? How would that work? Dude, I can't remember what the answer is to this. Trying to remember. I think the answer is yes. It would be possible. And that's because there is no repugnance to human natures somehow, because they are individuated by their own matter, terminating in their personality in the second person of the Trinity, the second person of the Trinity. So yeah, I think the answer is yes. That would be possible, actually. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. It would be possible. Okay, but that's a little bit speculative. If Christianity for some reason didn't exist, would you rather be a Jew, Muslim, or other? Just a hypothetical. Okay, well this it may sound like a terrible question. In many ways, it kind of is, but it actually is very helpful to think about this, because really you have to recognize that Catholicism, we do have an idea of natural knowledge of God and natural religion. So if there were only false revelations, there was only false claims to divine revelation, then one would be obliged to just practice natural religion, which would basically just be prayer, the keeping of the natural law, and so on and so forth. I don't like talking about stuff like that. I can't remember. I read about it one time. Just not really super interested about that. Sorry, bro. Is this major clickbait? LOL. I said literally Q&A. I said Q&A. Okay, you don't know the lore behind it. Hey, I made a thought on Wiggers. I love Johannes Wiggers. Okay, I made you don't know the lore behind the thumbnail. Okay, let me go to, is it view your channel? Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, so this thumbnail, Jay Cryer, the racist humbled. Look at that. That's a video from a man by the name of the what is his name? The something Thomas. The can you guys help me, please? What is his name again? Please help me. Critical Thomas. That's the Critical Thomas, because he's critical of Thomism. Yeah, I remember now. Okay, that's some guy named Critical Thomas had a debate with Jay Dyer, and Jay Dyer started making fun of his accent. He's like, "You're racist. You're racist." He started calling him racist. It's like, there's not many black creators in the sphere and stuff like that. It was extremely cringe, but that's what the lore is. Jay definitely finds it funny. Okay, he definitely finds it funny. Okay, yeah. Thoughts on Wiggers? His own concise summa. You mean the Compendium Theologiae? Yes, the Compendium Theologiae is a very good place to start. I wrote a whole list of introductory works from St. Thomas. Okay, let me think where I put it. Which I have like 4 Google accounts. Which one is it? Yeah, here we go. For my old New Aquinas Academy. Okay, what the? Oh, it's under my Militant Thomist account. Okay. Yeah, I made a whole list of beginner works written by St. Thomas that are really good to read. So let me copy the link for you guys. Put that in the live chat. So yeah, boom. There you go. That's a good way to start. There's a lot of catechetical works in there, a lot of easy works that laymen can read, and I give my own order. Can I not send a link through Super Chat? I don't know. What is your answer to divine hiddenness? What do you mean by this? Like what particularly are you referring to? I know the general, divine hiddenness problem that, we don't, like, why doesn't God just, like, flash in front of my eyes and say that he's there? Is that what you mean by that? What are your thoughts on metaphysicism? I think it's wrong. What are some modern resources on Thomistic natural theology that aren't Ed Feser or Gavin Kerr? What do you mean by Thomistic natural theology? Because we indicate something very particular when we talk about Thomistic natural theology. And I'm just making sure you're indicating the same thing. Doxing link? I didn't dox anything. Are you talking about women? Is Unius Initiative talking about women here? Is he talking about women? Is this in reference to women? That's very misogynistic of you, Unius Initiative. Well, when it comes to beatitude, beatitude has its notion in the will, not in the intellect. So yeah, when it comes to beatitude, beatitude of course is terminated in the will, um, but the beatific vision is we're formally indicating what the intellect does. So yeah. You're asking about how does one discern whether to remain true cell or find a wife? Is the gift of continence the only factor to take into account, or are there more? I mean, from the at least traditional way of discerning, you discern whether you have the gift of perfect continence, and um, there's some sort of continent vocation, whether it be obvious like the priesthood, lay brother, maybe even somebody who just lives in the world and serves the church in that way, um, because of the greater perfection of the state. Okay. Why do you consider the Trinity to be three subjects when classically a subject is being source? Source? Can I get a source for that? St. Thomas Aquinas' selected writings a good introduction to Thomism. No, it sucks. If I become a married deacon, would it be the ideal to live in perfect continence? If you become a married non-deacon, it would also be the ideal to live in perfect continence. Is voluntarism a meme? Yes. Hijab with cat earls. Hijab with cat ears grover. Yeah, shut up. Okay, I'm only 1 minute behind. Aquinas' shorter Summa, St. Thomas's own concise version of his Summa Theologica. Is that the same thing as a compendium? Yeah, I think so. If you hold to a heresy you aren't aware of, are you judged for it? Possibly, but only if your lack of awareness is from culpable ignorance. This is what a lot of people miss. There is such a thing as culpable ignorance. You have an obligation to study, and if you do not carry out that obligation and you somehow don't know something from that fact, and you are completely able, you have all the resources, and it's something which is very central, then yeah, you will be held culpable for your ignorance. But there also is the category of inculpable ignorance, which has to do like maybe somebody's like literally, nearly mentally retarded, and in the technical sense, and they just can't, study that well, or they just don't have any books or anything like that. Like obviously, that individual, that's inculpable ignorance. I don't know. That's 16 pounds gone then. Rip, rip. Sorry to inform you, brother. Will you make another 10-hour Most Holy Family Monastery lo-fi video? I should make a Michael Lofton lo-fi video. Put all of his music out there. I don't know. He might copyright strike me though. Can you explain to whether how to discern how you know you have perfect continence? Um, yeah, that's something which obviously is best discerned with somebody who has the gift for sure. So somebody with a vocation. But it's not only like movements, a sort of assault of movements towards concupiscence, but also a certain attachment to basically like a certain attachment to women in general. Like it might not even be a like necessarily a sexual thing, but wanting to somehow form a bond with them that is fruitful in nature, to have that desire. Like perfect continence is not merely in reference to like sexual temptation. It's also in reference to that. Sorry. Regarding the discernment question, some might say that since nigh everyone, having been a porn addict at one point, I'm a true cell. Means that no one is called to celibacy. How do we refute this? Get over it. Get over it. I mean, there's very many saints who were clerics who at one point lived a life of sexual degeneracy. Through grace, you can form perfect continence. I mean, that's the whole point of us talking about perfect continence arising within the confines of marriage. To where somebody, you know, let's say they're married at 25 and they're done having children by 40. Like when they're 45, 50 years old, they might have developed through discipline, they might have developed perfect continence and can live a life of perfect continence. So yeah, I think that would kind of make absurd a lot of the relationship between the councils and the married life. Referring to the problem of those who truly try to search for God in their lives but just don't receive the virtue of faith. I mean, God, the Spirit blows where He wills. So God could simply and does simply choose not to infuse supernatural virtue, and that's His prerogative because nobody is owed it because it's above all the gifts of nature. How was Jay humbled? Okay, get the meme. Can you guys get memes? So we know by divine revelation that while Christ could do that, that it's not going to happen. Okay. Let me see. Okay, I'm back to the present. Let me see if there's anything I want to actually answer. It's a little over an hour. I might hang around for another like 15 minutes. Okay. Okay. Subject is what's referred to as the principium quod for the principle which acts. Please seriously answer the hijab with Kadir's question. Okay, thank you for the super chat. Invite critical Thomas. No. What is the Calvinist take when it comes to St. Augustine? How do they deal with the aspects that are very Catholic in his teaching, purgatory, priesthood, intercession of the saints, etc.? I mean, some of those, like, there are some people that cope and say that he didn't believe in invocation of saints. That's big cope. There's also a cope about purgatory that he, at one point in his life, questioned it, which just isn't true. When it comes to the priesthood, they would probably try to read that in a Protestant way as, hey, we agree with a certain ministerial priesthood. So yeah, when it comes to those in particular, there's always distinctions that they make. Yeah, you're funny. You're so funny, dude. You're so funny. You have the whole squad laughing, bro. Okay, I'll just super chat whenever you're live with Hassan. Okay, I'll ask him about the cat ears question. Where should I read about moral theology as regards the conjugal act? What do you mean by this? I don't think there's really anything, to my knowledge, in English that goes over it much in detail. Even the old moral manuals in English usually leave the sections in this in Latin. Yeah, based Pope crowning us the king. Who's going to be crowned king, though? That's the real question. That seems like a pastorally problematic answer, considering many of those people struggling with the aforementioned hiddenness issue look at the passage It talks about asking slash receiving slash knocking slash opening. Yeah, anybody who is we do hold that anybody who is truly properly disposed, open to the working of grace, and so on, are giving the requisite gifts, which are necessary, and they, in the words of Saint Thomas, impetrate God's mercy. We would just say that those individuals happen not to be instances of that. Okay. You should probably study more. You could direct them to reputable resources and things like that. A lot of like the theological question answering probably shouldn't come from your end, but what should come from your end is a sort of expression of moral transformation. So St. Peter Faber talks about this, but basically, we have what are called moral motives of credibility. So the transformation of divine grace, that becomes a motive of credibility for people. So living the Catholic life in a public and open manner, in which one shows the transformative effects of grace, that becomes a motive of credibility for other people. And I mean, you can think about examples of various saints where this happened, like Saint Catherine of Siena. She wasn't super educated, and she didn't, dispute with the heretics through very subtle dialectic, but she showed forth a life of holiness, and that life of holiness showed the transforming effects of grace in her life and became a motive of credibility that the religion that she was following was true. Okay. That's a personal question. What personal question? Oh, I see a super chat below. I guess I'll go scroll, 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 scroll. Will all the Jews convert before the second coming, and if so, ethnic or cultural? Oh, this is oh man, I'm so sorry. Let me text Hassan real quick. Because there's like a very precise answer that the church has given to this of Hassan told me about this and I freaking forgot about it. There's a very precise answer that the church gives about what it means to be like the root of Jesse. Okay. The stock of Abraham. Um uh because obviously, like, if you have somebody who is, let's say, like a random black guy, and that individual gets becomes like a proselyte to Judaism, like that individual, and his descendants are truly like grafted into Israel. Sorry, bro. I'm so sorry. I literally can't remember the precise answer that Hassan gives. Sorry, sorry. What is a fundamental basis for reasonable faith? How would you explain to someone with zero prior knowledge to Catholicism, with the ability to reason that the Church and Scripture are true? Um, so obviously, we can't demonstrate that Scripture or the Church or any other divine revelation. We cannot demonstrate, strictly speaking, that this is of supernatural origin, because the natural principles of our knowledge don't reach that. So we're able to show that this divine revelation is credible insofar as God has given certain signs which render it credible. These are going to be things like miracles, prophecies, the moral miracle of the conversion of the entire world, the efficacy of her sacraments and her teaching, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of these motives of credibility. I would suggest, if you want to know more about this, you read what I recommended earlier, Find Gold. Find Gold Motives of Credibility. Just look up that and you should get a PDF document from Lawrence Feingold talking about the motives of credibility for faith. But good question. Are you Brown Scapular gang? No. Okay. Let me see if Hassan has answered. He hasn't answered. Yeah, that's cringe. I'll stay for another like 5 minutes. Yeah, I just don't want to take the obligations that come with it. I have other obligations when it comes to prayer. You don't want to just like promise max and add on every single devotion. Yeah, stating that the moon landing is fake is based, actually. Angels are not rational creatures. That's the answer. Um, Let me pop up the section from the Summa if you want to read more about it. It's in Prima Pars. It's like in the 70s, I think. It's Prima Secundae. No, it's not in the 70s. It's in the 60s. That's what I meant. By the 60s, I meant the upper 50s. Okay. It's not medium. It's not immaterial things. It's not material things. It's the mode. Yeah, so it's in question 58. Not discursive, not composing and dividing. So not technically rational. Okay, 4 minutes. Let's see if there's anything I feel like answering. Opinion on milkshakes, they're based. I was, but I decided against it. Why do you worship Mary? Because Mary is worthy of worship. What do you think about St. Ignatius of Loyola, and have you read about him? I freaking love St. Ignatius of Loyola. I went through the spiritual exercises with the spiritual director. I love St. Ignatius of Loyola. I am a devotee of St. Ignatius of Loyola. He's the greatest. He's just immaculate, amazing, glorious. I love St. Ignatius so much. If there's any St. Ignatius hate in my chat, you're getting insta-banned, and I'm not unbanning you ever. Okay? There really hasn't been good stuff on textual criticism, to my knowledge, from scholastics. Okay, bro. Yeah, fun question. You could literally just Google it. Because their knowledge is accidental. It's through certain infused species that are connatural to them. That's why. Unlike God, who knows through his infinite essence. Because his medium of knowledge is limited. Because he's silly. What does he mean by this? Sorry. Okay. What? I cannot tell if you're sarcastic about Ignatius. Saint Ignatius. Your sarcasm is impenetrable. No, my sarcasm is pretty easy to understand. I don't know why people can't get it. When I say sarcastic things, people are just like, "Oh, for real?" I don't know why. I don't know why they can't catch it. Am I really that impenetrable in my sarcasm? Is that true? But no, Saint Ignatius is the best. I love Saint Ignatius so much. I love the Jesuits. What about journal articles? Talk to a priest. Tone of voice does not change, but shouldn't you know from the subject matter? Like if it's something that's just like super absurd, or if I like give a certain look to the camera or something like that, you know, I'm changing the intent of my words. Yeah, I think this is it. Your audience is just autistic and also can't read sarcasm. I had to learn this the hard way. I was trolling somebody and I thought they understood that I was trolling them, but they were autistic. So I just like kept like relentlessly trolling them. And I thought that we were all having good fun and they were playing into it, but the guy was just autistic. Oh man, that was terrible. That was probably yeah. I still feel bad about that. That was that was terrible. That was terrible. Top 10 worst commenters of all time. That would be fun. You'd have like a lore stream where we go over all of the worst live chat individuals, worst commenters. I'd have to get Hassan on there to consult on that one. I tend to have a poker face. Interesting. Oh yeah, I troll. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I was um my son wanted to ride with me in the car. I was dropping something off, so he rode with me in the car somewhere, and I got back home, and he fell asleep. So I just left him in the car, and I left the car on. Got the climate all fine for him. Don't worry, guys. Car was on, climate control was on. It was at home. Okay, nothing like leaving in a hot car or anything like that. And I went inside, and then my wife was just like, "Is Augustine with you?" And I just like straight face was like, "What are you talking about?" It was so bad. I don't know why I did it. That was just my first response. Like, "What are you talking about?" And then like the look on her face was just of like pure terror. I was like, "I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking." Yeah, that was terrible that I did that. But I just live to troll. I live to troll. I just had to do that. I had to. Okay. Do you think Father Gregory Pine remembers me? Yeah, of course. I haven't emailed him in a while. I should email him. Why does Wagner love to just look at the last message I sent and say, "I need more context, dude"? Because I don't see all the messages because there's so many. I just kind of scroll. You should not do Saint Ignatius spiritual exercises on your own. You should get a priest too. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a group. You just have to get somebody who's a Jesuit who wants to give you the spiritual exercises. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. There's not really a wait list. I like to keep it at like probably around 10 meetings a week. I don't like to do any more than that because then it gets like a bit cumbersome. And I mean, if it gets up to that, that's why I raised prices on things because I was like, okay, it's getting a little bit much, so I decided to raise prices on it. So I like to keep it around 10. I mean, if it gets anything like greater than that, into more like the 15 a week category, then um, I would just raise the prices. Supply and demand. Okay, remember, I just released something on Patreon, Existence of God, Bill of Art. I'm doing a translation on that. You guys should check that out. It's pretty fun. Any opening meetings this week? Yeah. I mean, if you just basically the way that it works is I have the slots, and if you sign up, it should show you all the available slots, and you have to do it like 24 hours ahead of time. And I have a little book, and I write down in the little book, okay, that person at this time, and I make sure I try to remember. 99% of the time, I remember. Sometimes I forget, and I have to tell them like, "Oh, sorry, bro. Here's a coupon for 100% off. Please just reschedule." Opinions on the ontological argument. Fallacious. Okay. I don't remember if there's foot, but the ontological argument, the Bill of Art thing, goes into this ontological argument bad. Okay, I'm glad you wasted your $5 on this. If Bigfoot and aliens are sentient moral agents, can they be licitly baptized? Bigfoot and aliens don't exist. Okay. Would you teach at Franciscan University if offered a job there? No, I wouldn't. I don't want to teach at university. Okay. Anyways, yeah. Heart. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, bro. Finish your answer. Which answer? Ontological argument's fallacious. It's fallacious. The reason it's fallacious is because we don't have a perfect apprehension of the essence of God. Okay, so yeah, heart. Okay, thank you for the stream. Okay, you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening. I'm gonna go do something. Okay, give me back my $5, Rabbi. Yeah, cry about it. Go to sleep. Yeah, I do need to sleep. I've been waking up at like 6 a.m. I've been waking up early. Okay, bye guys. Have a nice one.